So it's all for play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hello, Aston Villa fans, and welcome to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast for our Burnley preview. Games coming thick and fast, and we wouldn't have it any other way. Firstly, before we go any further, Paddy, do you know of any good solicitors? Because we're getting sued, apparently. I'm looking at here in the comments for false advertising. I did say this was going to be on at at 9:30. It's now 9:35, but I do have to put up my hands and say that that's what I get for creating three links at the same time. I was sitting in the Team Sheet Tantrum link for Sunday, waiting for Paddy, cursing him, going, where the hell is Paddy? And then I realised I was in the wrong link. So 100% my fault tonight. 100% my fault.
At least you're honest about it. I was sitting here going, this fella's after falling asleep.
No, Paddy, I'm after a can of Monster Energy there about half an hour ago. So because I might be needed for waking up with the lady tonight. She's a bit unsettled, but she'll be fine. Right. So I said I better fuel up now in case she wakes up between now and midnight. Anyway, that's my what?
Gotta be done.
Gotta be done is right. Gotta be done. Anyway, hopefully Aston Villa don't show up 5 minutes late into Turf Moor at the weekend like we did right now, Paddy, because this is one of the games that I marked off at the start of the season as one that I was really looking forward to. I was really looking forward to it from the point of view of they're an interesting side. They're a fun side to watch. Burnley, company's getting a lot of credit. Like a lot of people anointing him at the moment, and very well maybe correct. I would just say to people, Patrick Vieira this time last year was also being anointed for being a great manager. And now he is no longer in the position he was in. I'm not saying the Vincent Kompany is going to be binned or anything like that from Burnley, but what I'm getting at here is that and they completely play two different styles of football. But early season for teams catching teams out is it's what the Premier League is almost famous for. And I will go back as far as Hull, Phil Brown days. You know, I'll never forget those days. Hull and Phil Brown, they had no business being that high in the league in the first season that they were there. Or you go back to George Burley with Ipswich, Marcus Stewart scoring goals for fun. You know, I'm not casting aspersions against Burnley. They're a mighty good team, and I really like watching them and everything like that. As I say, I'm going to be really interested to see if they can do a Brighton, or if they will do a Hull or an Ipswich, because I like Burnley. I like it because it's a nodal town. It's a colloquial town, as I say, and it's just it feels like proper football territory up there, you know. So that's my little soliloquy on Burnley at the moment.
Yeah, it's like Burnley is a great little club. We haven't been treated to any decent football in the Premier League with Burnley. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see the first match of the season against Manchester City because I was out coaching myself. But and then their game against Luton Town was obviously postponed last weekend due to, I'm presuming, what's going on at Kenilworth Road and trying to get that up to Premier League level. So we haven't seen much of them. They did put out a very, very, very young side with the elder statesman being Sander Berge in the middle of the park at 25 years of age.
Who I hope plays at the weekend as well, by the way. Spoiler alert.
Yeah. Sorry, Josh Cullen was actually the elder statesman at 27 years of age, followed by Sander Berge at 25 years of age. So we're gonna have a team that's full of life, full of vigor, full of trying to be, you know, and it's still they're not even finding their way because, you know, they've only played Manchester City. There's not a whole lot to base that on, so it's probably a bad time to play them if there is such a thing. But we're in a decent place too, so I would expect us to go and pick up the points. But having said that, there will be a little bit of trepidation there.
I think midfield. Like once again, I'm spoiler as well. We've got another 36 of these in the league to go. Pre-match, no, another 35 pre-match pods. I will be talking about our midfield getting on top an awful lot through the course of this year because I think our midfield is that good, and I think it's that good that it can go to any midfield in the Premier League. Albeit, I think the what happened on day one against Newcastle was a real kind of rocket to the midfield, I suppose, as a whole, as a cohort. Like it's not going to get as tough as that. It rarely get as tough as that in the league, because I think this team is able to figure out most midfields. We saw it last season. We were able to mix it with the best inside there on the run in. I think Newcastle was one where we were totally caught cold. Now we go to Turf Moor. We're going away again, so we're going away. Interesting to see how Unai Emery sets that midfield up, where he plays with Douglas Luiz and Kamara as 2 6s, kind of like he did against Newcastle, or whether we're allowed to engage more. I would be very disappointed if we weren't allowed to go full on engagement in midfield, because I genuinely believe Josh, like Paddy, we've seen a lot of Josh Cullen in an Irish shirt. He passed the ball around anything from 5 to 12 yards. He can pass the ball in. I think he can be pressured. I don't think he's got any massive turn of pace. And Sander Burge, like Berg, or however you pronounce it, talking about turns of pace, he's no pace whatsoever. So very, very technically good footballers, both of them. I think if we Newcastle them, as in get right up in their faces, and I know we don't have a Joe Linton to go out there and start and be an imposing figure, but I think if we can engage as high up the field as we possibly can, I think that we can have some serious joy in that midfield. I see no reason for our midfield not to feast at the weekend if we play our game, and if Burnley, if Burnley play the way they played in the Championship last season, because that's all we really have to go on when we look at them. As you say, the Man City game is a thing of nothing really. But if it goes that way, I think our midfield have to be on form. That's what I'm saying. I think they have to be on form for us to go to Turf Moor and to boss that game.
Yeah, well, there's no reason why the midfield won't be on top. Where we're going to struggle is where we've got a return in the last couple of games, which is down the flanks and getting the ball into the box. So if they're playing a tight three in the middle, followed by 2 wing backs, we're going to find it that little bit tougher to get at them. I'm not saying we won't get at them. It'll just be a little bit tougher than it has been the last couple of games. So that's going to, for me, that's the most interesting battle. Do we vary it? Do we change it that we attack fully through the middle? I think that's the way to go. I think if we play 2 up top on their toes, play the guys bursting from midfield, I think it could be a day for Tielemans to play those eye of a needle passes through the middle. As much as I want to see, I'm a little bit worried about Kamara's form. I'd like to see him play again, just to get minutes under the belt and just to get back up to the level that he should be at. But it would also be, I'm just saying, a good day for Yuri Tielemans to start to pick out a Diaby run or pick out a Watkins run off the shoulder. I don't envisage them playing very high. I think they'll play quite deep and hit off us and try and hit us on the break with the 2 youngsters on the wing. And and then another young lad up top, but didn't have much to do and barely touched the ball against Manchester City. So it's going to be a strange game. In that it's kind of a journey into the unknown. I'm sure there's been plenty of look back at the team that come up from the Championship and the last few games of the Championship and how they set up there. And then of course they've had the beauty of a break. You told me yesterday that they played Manchester City, or Manchester United, and they beat them 3-0.
Beat United 3-0 in the behind closed doors friendly yesterday.
Yeah. So it is going to be it is going to be, it's not going to be a walk in the park. Let's say it's going to be a dull enough affair as we try and break them down. A lot of patience needed, but I do believe we have enough to get the 3 points.
Yeah, like they've done a lot of good business in the transfer market, Burnley. Yeah, and here we go. I'm going to start throwing out some names here, and what I mean by good business is they've done sustainable business. I think even if you take into account if they were, and I actually don't envisage them getting relegated this year. I envisage them finishing comfortably anywhere from 14th to 11th. I think that they're a very good side, as I said before. What they've done business based on. I think even if they did get relegated, they've got young profile players bought for good prices. I know a lot of people are seeing 18, 20 millions for most of their signings, but they're bought for very good prices that have sell on value even if they get relegated, and also are young enough and have a lot left to prove in their career that they could stay in the championship and get them promoted again, and that would still be seen as a year of development for them. So what I mean by that is their players not out of their development phase yet. Like they brought the kid they have up front, what's his name, the Swiss guy, Amdouni. Like he's 5 goals in 5 games for Switzerland. He's 22 years of age. Just like a very, very shrewd signing. Like lots of clubs were in for him. Lots and lots of clubs were in for him. And Burnley, jumped everybody and got in there for him as well. Same with that guy, Wilson Odobert, signed from Troyes. I don't know how to pronounce it. 18 years of age. Like he's been playing. He's 18 years of age. He's got a full year of senior football under his belt already. He won't be 19 till November. They've spent money on him. Yes, they've spent a lot of money on him, but they spent money on him. Another guy who's still in his development phase now, going to play at a Premier League team, and will get minutes there as well. As I say, Sander Berg was bought. He's been brought in because he's got Premier League experience. He's a big man there in midfield. They've done other business, like they've brought in Nathan Redmond on a free transfer, which I think is shrewd as well. Darrell Shea at centre half, good for us in Ireland to have more centre halves playing in the Premier League. Stephen Kenny favourite in there at centre half. Darrell Shea was pretty decent business. What was it, 6 million, Paddy, for somebody who has an absolute ball of senior starts, like at 24 years of age. I think he's like about 130 starts already, senior starts, which is, at 24 years of age isn't bad going for somebody like that. James Trafford in goals, probably the heir apparent to Jordan Pickford in goals for England as well. We saw him have a very good under 21 championship. And then you mix in the guys, I said it's a colloquial team, it's a team, that is very localized, neighborhood friendly kind of team. They've got the likes of Jay Rodriguez in there. You've got you've got the guys like Charlie Taylor, like what's the guy, Connor Roberts. Those guys who've been with the club for a couple of years that are able to add that kind of we're Burnley, this is what we're about. Jack Cork, albeit Jack Cork was did he play with Burnley before? Oh, he did. He was on loan with Burnley for a while. I'm just looking it up here. But he's there since 2017. So they have that backbone, that kind of traditional backbone that will allow these young players to come into the club and know what the club is about. But they also have this exciting kind of spearhead towards this the Vincent Kompany kind of stamp on the team, if that makes sense. So if I was a Burnley fan, obviously you'd be excited being back in the Premier League, but you'd be excited with the sustainability that they've gone about their business at. If they stay up in the Premier League for 1-2 seasons, these the transfers that they made this season will be a drop in the ocean for them, because they'll be really able to compete then. So I think there's a lot of thought gone into their business, and they're going to be formidable at the weekend, I think, for sure.
Yeah, you frightened me a little bit with the striker there scoring 5 goals in 5 games. So I had to go back and have a look who they were against. He got 2 against Romania, 1 against Andorra, 1 against Israel, and 1 against Belarus. So I'm not as worried as I previously was when I heard 5 and 5 at international level. And look, that's some strike record, and it only takes a slight chance for a decent striker to score a goal. So we just got to limit their chances and keep them at bay.
It was often thrown at Robbie Keane that he could only score against Liechtenstein and Andorra as well, and he didn't do too bad for himself but
by certain people that didn't appreciate international football, obviously, and scoring goals at World Cups and stuff like that obviously don't matter.
I think for sure. But I think, Paddy, like I had him on the thumbnail there, Nicola Zaniolo. By all accounts, he would have played last night, only maybe the club weren't sure whether he could or not. Travelled to Edinburgh anyway. I presume he would have travelled anyway, just for integration into the team, see what match day is like. And I jest when I say that. The club obviously must have known. I know Unai Emery said that he might have got minutes against Hibs, but I would imagine that when he came out of that straight away, someone said to him,
they did, Neil.
Listen to my argument for why they probably did. Unai Emery probably came out and they said to him, Unai, he can't play. And he went, yeah, look, people misspeak all the time. I'm the king of it. I'm the king of having to confirm and clarify what I've said. Yeah. My reasoning for him traveling was integration into the team. New guy coming, big day. Everybody it's Aston Villa are coming to town. Bring him. See what the preparation is like. See what the setup is like on the day. How do we go about our warm up? What does Unai Emery like in the dressing room? What's the vibe in there? Is somebody going to come in there and just crank up the music? Do people like to be quiet? I think that like it's professionalism to do that, to bring him around. But that's me always seeing the glass half full, I think, in situations like that. But administration errors do happen and people may not have been aware of it. Remember last year we didn't name a full complement of subs, and then everybody was scrambling to figure out who or why it wasn't put down. If a person could sit in the bench, do we have to only have that amount of subs and so on? So it's not out of the realms of possibility that they didn't know, but I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt.
Well, the reason I'm not giving them the benefit of the doubt is, number one, his shirt was hanging in the dressing room. There was a number 22 hanging in the dressing room. And number two, somebody reliable told me today that UEFA told him when they arrived at the stadium that he couldn't play. So there you go.
There you go.
Make from that you want. A reliable source. I'm not saying it's true, but a reliable source did say that UEFA told him when they got there. And look, it's an easy mistake to make. As far as I know, it was a different competition. It was Europa League. He played in the preliminaries for Galatasaray, wasn't it? Or was it Champions League?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
It was in Conference League anyway.
No,
but
you can play the group stages if we get there.
Obviously, the rules are that you can play preliminary rounds, but you can't play for another team in the preliminary rounds, but can play when it gets to the group stages. So he'll be fine when we, fingers crossed, eventually brush aside Hibs next week, and onto the next round for him. But I do expect to see him at some stage of the weekend. Having said that,
half an hour minimum for him.
Yeah, having said that, I'm sure Unai Emery will gauge how the game is going and whether it suits him or not. If it's a drab affair with a very compact midfield in there, or midfield and defense, does that suit him? I don't know. Will it be a case that you leave him off for the next day and spring him from the bench against Liverpool? I honestly don't know. I wouldn't second guess what Unai Emery would do, to be honest. But I'd like to see him get a run out. I'd like to see what he's made of. We've all seen him in his pomp at Roma. If you haven't seen him, you can find YouTube clips. But I remember him absolutely destroying. I actually spoke to Jordan, who comes into the comments. Spoke to him today, who was a big Roma fan, who was absolutely glowing, talking about him. Can't wait for him to see him play. And my only memory of seeing him play was him absolutely destroying Sampdoria in a game one hungover Sunday morning while I was lying on the couch. And I went, who the hell is this guy? So he's ours now, and hopefully we can get him back to the levels he was playing at that day, because he was absolutely incredible.
I actually think, Paddy, you mentioned there about if it's a drab, tight affair in the middle of midfield, I think that's probably when we're most likely to see him, because I could see him coming on, play that left side, McGinn shifts over to the right, or maybe even McGinn goes into the centre, Diaby goes to the right, and then what you have is you've got interchangeable three behind Watkins at that stage. And I think that's probably how you would unlock that compact midfield, because Bailey, as we all know, is a one-line runner, like whereas Zaniolo is a bit more about him. He's not going to be. Well, first of all, he's powerful in the run, and as you said after the Hibs game, Paddy, Bailey, I thought had a really good game against Hibs. There was one or two opportunities there where took too much out of the ball and ended up just falling down. You're not going to see Zaniolo fall down. You're going to see Zaniolo lean on somebody, make them fall down, and utilize that to get away from people, as opposed to try and do 15 step overs or whatever. Plus, also, he's running. He's support runs. He runs off the shoulder. His ability to get into a back post is something that we miss. And I think the Hibs game could have been a bit of a giveaway for that, because of the amount of crosses that Luca Dean had that went to the back post, specifically to the back post, and they weren't.
We're also told he's not a great header of the ball,
but that's fine. You that's like the crosses that are going to the back post. See how low Ollie Watkins had to stoop for them. Like they're not high, wide, and handsome crosses. They're almost chipped into the back post with pace. Obviously, it's where the ball drops as opposed to how high the ball comes in. Also, once again, just look at the goal he scored to win the Conference League for Roma 2 years ago. Like that was an Ahmed Al Mohammadi area of the field cross that you would say he makes a lovely run in, takes a brilliant touch in it, and finishes it past the keeper, dinks it over him. Like there's no way in the world Ollie Watkins could finish the ball the way he did there. And this is me, the conductor of the Ollie Watkins fan bus, talking about Ollie Watkins, saying that he just doesn't have the composure to be able to just dink it over the goalkeeper like this guy did, like Zaniolo did. What I'm getting at here is that what this guy can do naturally is what would unlock this defense, as opposed to what Bailey can do physically may not be able to unlock it, because there's tons of players that are out there that can match somebody for speed over the first 10 yards. And I think Bailey's beginning to realize that, in his career. Yes, he's fast. Don't get me wrong, he's fast. But a player doesn't need to stay right by your shoulder the whole time. He just needs to wait for you to get tired. That's the danger with fast players. You can be outrun by somebody who might be one step slower than you, but can run for a longer distance than you, if that makes sense. Whereas Zaniolo won't need to rely on that. I don't know. So I'm going on very lengthy tangents tonight. I don't know what it is. I feel very I'm excited. That's why I think it is. I'm excited. I really am.
Gets me to my weekly question for you, Neil. Is there anybody in that team that gets into our team?
Just check to see, is Ashley Young there? Is there anyone there that gets into our team? I don't think so. And the reason I'm saying, no, I don't. I wouldn't have those three midfielders that they have. No, they wouldn't get past Tielemans on our team. And once again, if there's any Burnley fans watching, I'm not talking the club down. I'm just talking our club up, because I think we're on a real upward trajectory. Left back Vitinho. No. Connor Roberts, no. Goalkeeper, no. Like their goalkeeper might. A lot of teams might say, "Oh, do you know what? I take him. I take James Trafford over our goalkeeper." But not Emi Martinez. You wouldn't. Yeah. There isn't. Might get in our squad, but not in our starting 11.
Exactly, I'd have to agree there. Now there might be one or two that I get into the squad. I'd definitely take him as a backup goalkeeper if that was going to be the standard of backup goalkeepers we had. But other than that, I couldn't see any of the rest of what played against Manchester City getting into our team, or what I've seen play before getting into our team for sure.
I do like Jordan Bayer, but there's something about him that I think he's just a yellow card machine. I think he's going to be a yellow card machine in the Premier League, but I do like him. And I do like Darragh O'Shea as well. I just think he's a good, not for our team. I think Darragh O'Shea polarizes some Irish football fans. Some people really like him. Most people really like him, but there's a core element of people who don't think he's a good centre half. I'm not in that group. I think that he's young. I think he's got a lot of learning under his belt, and I think he's going to come on leaps and bounds at Burnley. But I still think I'd target him at the weekend over targeting Jordan Bayer. But as I say, it's there could be if we're allowed play at the weekend, there could be nice matchups. Yeah, and Matt Burton says I take that Aaron Ramsey bloke. Heard he's quite good. Well, there's proof. He doesn't get in our first 11.
Well, there you go. He couldn't ever get into our first 11 for a Premier League game, so he's got a huge opportunity now to go and play Premier League football, prove that he's good enough, and then hopefully, as I said, I still have the dream that we get the three boys in the same team playing for Aston Villa. I think it'd be absolutely magic. Obviously, if they're good enough, and as they always said when they were growing up, They got better as they got younger. And if that's the case, we're in for a bright future if as they say, there's a lovely buyback clause to take him back. So yeah, happy days.
Paddy.
We're going to get on to the inevitable question here.
The question here. Michael Salisbury, Paddy. Keeping it PG. Obviously, Michael Salisbury has been involved. Wasn't he involved? He was involved in Man United VAR mess up for the Onana decapitation that happened recently. And also, people forget at the end of last season, and in April last season, Mitoma was tripped in the box against Spurs, and he was also the VAR official that day. I think I was part of the officiating team whereby that was blatantly missed, and he was stood down for that game too. So realistically speaking, of the last 6 competitive games in the Premier League, he's been stood down twice. Once again, Paddy, breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth.
We did say, I think privately we did say, or maybe it was Noel Connaughton said it, that nothing surer that one of these guys stood down will be involved in the Burnley. I think we said it actually on the podcast. We said it in the podcast.
I think I said it on Twitter because Ronan Farrell, I think it was, said to me, "Oh my God," at Love McGrath Pod on Twitter, and then I went, "What did I tell you? You couldn't make it up." It's always when a referee is stood down. Always when a referee is stood down, their game back is for Aston Villa. Just always happens.
Yeah, because we're the nice, polite club that put up with this shit. Unfortunately, it was funny looking at a kind of a yo-yo system. One stands up, one sits down in the technical area. We're defending a set piece. It's Aston McPhee out at the edge of the technical area, and our manager sits down like the way rules are supposed to be. Whereas the rest of them, I haven't seen one person being pulled up for 2 people standing in the technical area. Apparently, I was wrong on Twitter because Tyndall can stand beside the manager as long as he does it while he's standing at his seat. It says nothing about that in the rule. 1 person allowed stand in the technical area is what it says. But I'm wrong, obviously. But anyway, there you go.
It's a complete okay. When you're trying to fix the game of football, if you were to canvass every single professional footballer the world over and ask them, what rule would you most like to see implemented? Not one of them, not one of the professional footballers in the whole entire world would have said, I think Jason Tyndall should sit down. There's not one of them would have said it. It is the most pointless rule. I hope teams flaunt it, and I hope teams take no notice of it. It's a stupid rule. It's Paddy, we're in a situation I agree with the rules. I'm not negative against the increase in yellow cards that are happening at the moment. I don't like to see it, but I think there has to be a kind of a line in the sand so the players will learn. Look, you can't do this because you do have to give referees respect as well from that point of view. You can't be Bruno Fernandes up in their face the whole time calling for cards. It's a bugbear of mine when people call for cards. I'm a fan of that rule. We are going to fall victim of it. Other teams are going to fall victim of it. Arsenal fell victim of it with Tomiyasu recently. I think that was a harsh sending off, as everybody else will. But there has to be a line in the sand where there has to be a course correction for players on the field as well. So I think that's okay. But to turn around and start booking people in the technical area when they're not being abusive, there's nothing going on. What does it bring? What does it bring? They should be allowed. Otherwise, what you do is assistant managers have to sit in the stand. Why not banish them to the stand altogether and just have the manager and the physios and the subs on the field on the sideline? It just doesn't make it's a change for the sake of making a change, and that's my little rant on it. Well,
nobody seems to know why it was brought in. The one explanation that I was given is that the 4th official can't see what's going on. We went 100 years of football with no 4th official. So what's he there for? He's there to police that area. He's not there to watch the match. That's what VAR is for. We've gone through two weekends of Premier League football. We've had 2 officials had to step down last weekend. We've had a yellow or a red card, which has been downgraded to a yellow card, rightly so, in the case of Alexis McAllister. We've had a penalty being given to Liverpool where nobody touched the player, and it was still given, and all these people, and they weren't stood down because it was Liverpool. That's the only other reason I could think of. If that had been at the other end, those two referees would have been stood down this weekend. And you until they get it right on the pitch, they need to forget what's happening in the technical area. But they've brought in the rule, so that's why we're talking about it. It's a stupid rule, absolutely pointless, and I don't get it.
Yeah, I certainly don't get it, and I don't get the point of view that the fourth official can't. What's happening? It's not like Jason Tyndall is shadowing Eddie Howe, and Eddie Howe's catapulting. He's firing stones at the right left back, when or the right back as they pass him by. Like what? Or he's got a laser pointer and he's shining it. What? They're not selling drugs on the sideline, Why does he need? Why do the fourth officials need to be able to see what's happening? Like it's two men having a chat.
For me, it shouldn't be about the fourth official. The fourth official is there to police what's going on in that area. If that rule is brought in, for me, the reason that rule is brought in is so the people who are sitting on the bench, the players, can actually watch the game without having to strain it and stand up and look around whoever's standing in front of them. That is the only reason why I would imagine that rule is there. And if it is a rule, they need to police it, and police it for everybody, because we all know that they don't.
Yeah. No, look, I don't want him to police it at all. I want him to just forget about it and just go, stupid rule. I want them to do like they did. Remember when, was it Rodri scored the goal where Tyrone Mings, remember that offside goal that wasn't offside, or that was offside that wasn't offside, where the juggling balls, Dean Smith said about the juggling balls, where Villa played Man City, and then they just changed the rule. They said magically, okay, the rule is now changed, after the game. I think they should just come out and say, lads, look, we're not going to enforce the technical area rule, but be sound and just, like, if the fourth official says get out of your way, or else he's going to call you over and give you yellow cards for it. So something like, to me, it's the most pointless rule ever. Or you have two separate boxes, because if the fourth official can't see what's going on, is he looking at the game, or what's he looking at? Because he can't influence the game. He's there to police the technical areas. So if he's trying to figure out what's going on between manager and assistant, sure, couldn't they just be doing anything untoward inside in the dugout? It just makes if that's the reasoning for it, I'm yet to be convinced, I think is what I would say.
I agree.
Anyway, it's an interesting one, but I hope and I think this Aston Villa team are going to go out and dominate the game at the weekend. I can see, like I put up there on Twitter a moment ago, just before we came on, about Douglas Luiz. I want to speak a small bit about him, because in the last season he was just a man possessed. The first few the games in pre-season, he was a standout player. I thought he was absolutely fantastic. And the first 3 games of the season, he's been he was a bit bullied against Newcastle. I think all the midfield were. I think it was just a midfield spacing issue, as I've said before, about standing on our centre halves' toes, and it just didn't suit us. And I think judging, I know Everton and Hibs, it's hard to judge, but looking at those, Dougie just ran the show. Ben Davis, I think is it Ben Davis, or apologies, on Twitter. He was at the game yesterday in Edinburgh, and he said to me, he tweeted at me saying that some of the Hibs fans are saying he's the best player they've seen in the flesh. They said he was just absolutely amazing yesterday, and I thought he ran the show yesterday as well, as like Dina and Watkins. So for me, I think he's just so pivotal to Aston Villa at this moment. I think Unai recognises it, and that's why he's brought in Tielemans, who is maybe a step down, not a step down, but you know what I mean, a couple of % down from him and what he can do with the ball and the pace he can do with that and everything. But I think that's why he was brought in, is because Unai looked at it and went, I need this guy in midfield to be able to play what I want to play. And I think he's just so pivotal. And I'm really looking forward to seeing him at the weekend, because I think this midfield, we could, I don't know for certain, we could match up well against them. And I really, really hope that we do, because I think that's the winning of the game for us for sure.
Yeah, you mentioned the word pivotal there. I think that's the word you were looking for on Twitter when you left the blank for Douglas Luiz. He's pivotal to what we do. He is probably our best player at the moment. I couldn't, with the exception of Emi Martinez for obvious reasons, there's nobody else I would hate to lose than Douglas Luiz. He's absolutely immense. He has really grown into himself. He's really, really, really bossing the games, and we've got to treasure that, and as you say, for fans to come out and say he's one of the best players they've ever seen in the flesh. He's just he's effortless. In at the end of last season and the beginning of this season, obviously things were a bit fractured, let's say, against Newcastle, but he just looks like he's reading the game a whole lot better. He's obviously been worked. His out of possession play has been worked on an awful lot with the manager, and he's just a joy to watch. He knows where the ball is going to be before the other players even made the pass or even thought about where the pass is going. He can see the danger out of possession, and when you see it on a wider picture or in the flesh at a match, it's great to watch. Absolutely great to watch. And for me, he's the one person we can't be without other than Emi Martinez.
I think so too. Well, considering we only have one senior striker at the club, I think there's an Ali Watkins there as well. And I think over the next few days, I would say I don't know anything before anyone says anything, but I would say watch this space with regards to a striker. I've been big on this since the start of the window. I still think my older striker is still out there somewhere, and he's still out there, and he's going to come and he's going to score 10 goals for us this season, and we're all going to remember him fondly next season. But I still think he's out there, and I think he might be coming in. Well, he has to come in within the next 7 days, because we've only 8 days, really, should I say, because we've only 8 days to bloody get players in before the window closes.
Neil, I have picked out the comment of the night, because some people in the comments are talking about Ansu Fati, which I think is probably a little bit pie in the sky, whether we're going to sign him or not. But Kieran O'Callaghan wins. Comment of the night.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
no way am I getting
that.
on the back of my shirt as well, Kieran. I have enough people whispering it behind my back. I don't
without putting it on your back.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't. I it's one I can't see happening just because of what it's going to cost us and what he's going to look for in wages. That's just my opinion on it. I think we've a long way to go before we're signing players of that ilk. But who knows? It could be Monchi working his magic. We've yet to see this magic coming up, but it needs to start happening soon, because we're now 8 days away from the transfer window closing.
And to be honest with you, Ansu Fati would be a luxury, I think, for Aston Villa, because yes, he comes in, he starts instead of Bailey, but he's a player of, if we were to go at hierarchy of needs within the club, within the team at the moment, I think a slight tricky winger who's maybe not as who's obviously a go forward player and maybe not contribute as much in defense mightn't be what we're looking for. I think the other guy at Barcelona, Ebde, is somebody that might fit Aston Villa better, although be it not be the marquee name. I have a piece on him that I'm going to release. I'm actually going to release 3 different videos tomorrow on scouting videos. I've them done. I've just because stuff gets in the way. This bloody being in Europe, Paddy, is really messing up my scouting series, because there's just so many podcasts to do to talk about games that I haven't been able to get them out. And then you record them, and then you don't, because I've had to pre-record them because we're coming on at 9:30 to talk about matches, which is great. It's great complaint to have. So I might release a couple of them tomorrow. They will be pre-recorded. And I know one of them is sure to elicit some conversation. That for sure. So
I gave you a name. I gave you a name some time ago, and I
still haven't done it.
It's still sitting there, and I can see the date on it. So it's over a month ago that I told you. But I still reckon we're going to sign Ivan Fresneda. So that's my one little one from left field before the end of the transfer window.
Sporting Lisbon are in talks with him at the moment, apparently. So they would have to have a bid agreed before they can talk to him. But we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see. And talking about things that are happening a week away. let's talk about something that's happened 2 weeks away. Kieran O'Callaghan has also reminded us that only 2 weeks left for the Paul McGrath, or until for the Love of Paul McGrath. If you think I know the name of my own podcast, for the Love of Paul McGrath, get together. I'm going to just start calling it. I had a Paul McGrath podcast. That's what most people call it anyway. But only 2 weeks before I get together, and it's 2 weeks this Saturday. So, as Fergie said, it's getting the squeaky bum time now. We better get ourselves in order for this. But really looking forward to it. And anybody who is coming, and specifically anybody who's traveling from places, far-flung places like Offaly, Wexford, and Birmingham, to come to the Donegal, to come to the podcast. We're looking forward to seeing you all in a couple of weeks' time, as well in Dublin in the Laughter Lounge. I have set I don't want to get anybody's hopes up, but there's a potential that there may be a very small amount of tickets that have returned that may go on general sale again. We will announce it. We will let people know. Obviously, it will be short notice coming up to the event. But if people, if you haven't been able to get a ticket, I'm not going to promise some will go on sale again. But there is a potential that some may go on sale again, depending on if people can't make it and tickets do come back to the venue. So obviously, we don't want tickets unused. So that's a kind of a call to anybody, is if you do have tickets and you somehow, for whatever reason, can't go to the gig, and maybe somebody else would like to go, get in contact with us, and we will speak to the venue, and we'll try and sort everything out. All right. Because it's going to be a great day. Looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to it. I've got
I'm a bit nervous now, I have to say.
Yeah. Well, you are, because I said to you last night, I've got a couple of things up my sleeve that I'm not going to tell you about. So that's why you're nervous. Because you're wondering, what's he going to do to me? Don't worry, Paddy. It'll be all right. It'll be all on video. Don't worry.
I'm not worried about that at all. I can take anything you throw at me. If the hecklers in the front row, I'm worried about.
Don't mind about the hecklers in the front row. They'll be fine, Paddy. Remember, you're the one with the microphone, so your voice is amplified. That's what I always. That's what I always would say whenever I was doing MC work or anything. You're the one with the microphone. Anyway, less of that and more of Aston Villa Burnley. That's kind of going to do it for us tonight, everybody. Thanks a million for everybody for watching. I really appreciate it. If you're new around here and you haven't subscribed to the podcast, we'd really appreciate it. Whether it be on the audio podcast or on YouTube. As I say, even if you don't listen to it in the audio and you are subscribed on YouTube, please subscribe in the audio podcast. Just drives it out there. Not everybody watches YouTube. And obviously, as I say, if you do like this, hit the subscribe button on YouTube, and you might swing around again for our team sheet tantrum on Sunday. We will be back with that on Sunday, and also a final whistle post-match pod as well on Sunday, as Villa take on Burnley in Turf Moor. I'm going to throw out a couple of videos tomorrow that I've pre-recorded as well. If you saw like scouting series and like my opinions maybe on some players, check those out too. I'd really appreciate it. But in the meantime, everybody, stay safe, stay healthy, and all that's left to say is up the Villa.
Up the Villa.